In the suffocating silence, a faint laugh echoed from somewhere unseen, curling through the air like a whisper from the grave. The sound was thin and prolonged, reminiscent of cold metal scraping against stone, sending shivers down Tristan's spine. And then, suddenly, a voice spoke, a whisper so close it felt as if it came from right beside his ear. The voice was light, like a breath, yet filled with a chilling resonance that froze him in place. Don't turn around again, because next time, it won't just be the darkness waiting for you. The words seeped into Tristan's mind, leaving behind a fear so profound, it defied explanation. The darkness around him no longer felt like a mere absence of light. It had taken on a presence of its own, something alive, biding its time for the perfect moment to strike. Part 6. Tristan's Tale, The Curse of the Mountain. The wind howled, weaving through the treetops and carrying with it the gray ash of a dying fire. The weak embers flickered in the air like condemned souls, exiled to drift aimlessly. The cold seeped deeper into their bones, slicing through layers of clothing, making everyone shiver as though an unseen hand were brushing against the napes of their necks. Tristan sat motionless, his eyes fixed on the wavering flames. The firelight danced in his pupils, reflecting a secret buried deep within him. There was something about the way he stared into the fire, silent, pensive, that made the atmosphere heavier, as though what he was about to say wasn't just a story, but a warning. Taking a deep breath, Tristan finally began to speak. His voice was low and heavy, pulling a tense hush over the group. The sound of the wind, the rustling leaves, even the rhythm of their breathing seemed to slow, as though everything in the forest was holding its breath for this moment, this terrible truth about to be unveiled. Have you ever heard about the curse of the mountain? Tristan's whisper cut through the still night, like a small bell ringing in a vast, dark void. The surrounding darkness seemed to press closer, suffocating the air. Even the wind stopped, leaving behind a silence so dense it felt alive. As if on cue, the eerie whisper that had haunted Tristan earlier replayed in his mind, a grim echo. Don't turn around again, because next time, it won't just be the darkness waiting for you. Tristan swallowed hard, beads of cold sweat forming on his brow. He knew there was no turning back now. The story had begun, and they had to hear it through, no matter what horrors awaited them in the telling. Gripping the extinguished flashlight in his trembling hand, Tristan gazed into the void, his eyes seeming to pierce through time itself, unearthing memories buried in fear and shadow. The flickering fire cast faint light on his face, making his words seem cloaked in the mist of the past. This mountain, Tristan began, his voice deep and deliberate, each word laced with gravity, is not just a campsite. It's the site of a tragedy, a horrifying one. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the group, ensuring they were all listening. Decades ago, a small family lived here. Just a father, a mother, and their 10-year-old son. They had chosen a solitary life on this mountain, seeking peace amidst the wilderness. Tristan took a shaky breath, his voice tinged with an unshakable chill. But on one stormy night, a group of strangers broke into their cabin. Tristan stopped momentarily, letting the forest sounds, whispering winds, rustling leaves, and their own tense breathing meld into the charged silence. The entire family was brutally murdered, he continued, his voice dropping lower as though weighed down by the tale's horror. The attackers left no trace behind, except for one thing. The bodies of the 3 victims were thrown into a deep ravine, and to this day, no one has ever found their remains. The locals whispered that since that fateful night, the spirits of that family had never found peace. They were trapped with this mountain, forever wandering in the darkness, becoming entities hidden deep within the forest, always waiting for someone to step into their forbidden domain. Tristan's eyes locked onto each member of the group, his voice slow, but weighted, each word a chilling warning that seemed to pour directly into their ears. Anyone who sets foot on this mountain will pay the price for their wrath. The atmosphere thickened, fear rising within each of them, not because Tristan's story was merely a tale, but because they were sitting right on that very ground. The wind fell still, leaving an oppressive silence and a creeping sense that they were being watched from the shadows of the forest. In that dreadful moment of quiet, soft footsteps echoed nearby, tentative and light, as though someone or something was drawing closer, stalking them from the darkness. Tristan brushed away a stray ember that drifted past, his eyes fixed on the flickering firelight before him. The flames danced erratically, as if reflecting the fear in his words. Each sentence carried a suppressed horror. Some people, out of curiosity or arrogance, have ventured up the mountain to uncover its secrets. Tristan continued, his voice sinking lower, heavy with the weight of untold tragedies. But none of them ever came back. The group's gazes grew tense, anxiety creeping into their expressions. Tristan's words hung over them like an ominous cloud. He drew a deep breath and pressed on, his tone more severe, as though he were leading them into the very heart of the terror. Some were said to have survived for a few days after coming down, but all of them went mad. Tristan's voice dropped to a whisper, his eyes betraying a flicker of unease. They spoke of shadowy figures without faces, lingering just at the edges of their vision, waiting for the smallest moment of vulnerability. Some claimed to hear mournful wails in the dead of night, as though the trapped souls were crying out, unable to move on. Others said that while they slept on the mountain, they felt icy hands rising from the ground, gripping their legs and pulling them deep into the earth. Tristan bowed his head slightly, his voice now barely audible, carried on the wind like a spectral whisper into each listener's mind. If you sleep on this mountain for even one night, he emphasized each word, his voice cold and filled with foreboding. The spirits of that family will drag you into their world, a world with no escape. You will be trapped there forever, never to return. The air seemed to thicken, as though the night itself had grown heavier. All around, they could hear the wind whistling softly, mingling with imagined footsteps brushing through the trees. The oppressive darkness seemed to press closer, as if an unseen presence hovered just beyond the feeble glow of the campfire. And the most terrifying part. Tristan's voice faltered, dropping to a hoarse whisper. His eyes glinted with an anxiety he could no longer mask. We're sitting on that very mountain, close enough for the spirits to sense us. His words struck like a dagger, plunging the group into a stifling silence. No one dared speak, for deep inside, they all felt it, the unsettling certainty that something was off. Not just Tristan's story, but the cold shiver that seemed to seep into the campsite, as if an invisible entity had crossed the boundary between their world and the other. As the story ended, a sudden gust of wind rose, scattering embers into the night sky. The faint flames sputtered and died, plunging the campsite into pitch-black darkness. An eerie stillness followed, broken only by the keening wind threading through the trees, sounding like the mournful cries of the dead echoing from beyond. The group sat frozen, paralyzed by an unnamed fear. Harvey instinctively gripped Teresa's hand, his fingers tightening until they turned white. His eyes darted around, scanning the suffocating darkness as if trying to pinpoint whatever might be lurking beyond their sight. Lydia curled into herself, hugging her knees, struggling to hold back her tears. "Do you feel it?" Lydia whispered, her voice trembling like the rustle of dry leaves in the wind. Everyone nodded silently, too afraid to speak, but they all felt it. A cold, unseen presence that had stepped into their circle. It couldn't be seen, but it was heavy and suffocating, like the cursed souls of the mountain had breached the boundary, bringing with them a tide of rage and despair. Suddenly, Lydia froze, her eyes wide, fixed on a spot beyond the trees where faint moonlight filtered through the canopy. She raised a trembling hand and pointed forward, her voice breaking with terror. Do you see it?"